Hello, and welcome to Influential Thursday on the Joan Henry Show. I'm your girl, Jamaican Joan, and I'm just gonna give folks a few minutes to get on here. I know we're just starting the live, and we have such a great show tonight that I really would hate for anyone to miss any of the information. So, while I wait for a few folks to join in, as always, I'm hoping that that you are staying safe and that you are just following your state, your county, whatever information that they put out there. Just follow that to make sure that you stay safe. Make sure your family members are safe, and I believe we all should do that, right? So again, I welcome you to Influential Thursday on the Joan Henry Show. I'm your host, Jamaican Joan, and I am super excited about tonight's broadcast. If you're tuning in for the first time, the Joan Henry Show is designed to bring you a weekly series of exciting programs that will inform, educate, and inspire you to start your business, not to start, but to take your business to another level, okay? This show features topics such as mindset, goal setting, turning your passion into profit, and a host of other business and motivational topics. So I would like to shout out all those who are watching live and those who will be watching the replay. I thank you just the same. And so tonight's featured guest is Mr. Reginald Foreman out of Florida, whom I will introduce shortly. So again, shout out to everyone who's watching locally and internationally, or my local folks. International shout out list as always: Cayman, the Bahamas, London, Canada, and of course, Jamaica. Thank you guys for tuning in week after week to support Influential Thursday. So tonight's mindset quote, and guess what? Tonight's mindset quote is coming from Joan Henry Fields. I wonder who's that? Oh, it's me. So my quote for tonight is, an obstacle is not a life sentence, it is a lack. The key is having the discipline to overcome. All right. So as I said before, my guest is Mr. Reginald Foreman out of Florida. And just to give you a quick overview, faced with gangs, abuse, and prison, Reginald Foreman was destined for failure until he found God and purpose in his pain. He created an unstoppable empire that is simply God made. He is an at-risk specialist, author, and speaker. He is also the founder of The Adventure of Reggie the Lion. Hello, Reggie, and welcome to the Joan Henry Show. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good, and thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Awesome. So, to kick things off, you have, like I just read, you have created an empire named God Made. So, first, how did you decide on that name? And second, what are your products of this empire?
Well, my name of my company, the business is Godly Image, and that came because when I was incarcerated, we'll go further into that. I was reading the Bible at 19 years old, and I read Genesis 1:26, 1:27, that man and woman was created in God's image. And at that time, I was going through a lot of insecurity and depression, really because how dark I was. You know, I had acne on my face. I was getting called African booty scratcher, all the things from back in the days. Getting called Haitian. They was just going at me because I'm from Miami. So I had a kind of complex because of how I looked back in the days. Now I know dark skin is in, and me and more chestnut, we winning. So you know, but back in high school days, it was a struggle. And so it meant something to me personally and spiritually when it says that God created man and woman in his image. So I went a little deeper and I said, well, if God created me in his image and he's all powerful, then there's a power I have. So long story short, I named my business Godly Image 3. And God made is another title up under godly image because we're creating God's image and what God made, and that's just another part of the brand. Because I found out when I was selling my fashion line, a lot of Christians would buy the godly image and the but people in the world in the streets, I guess they didn't feel like they was creating God's image. They didn't feel they was living right. So when I switched to God made brand, I would get people from the hip hop world and all over buying the product.
Oh, wow, that's inspiring. So, Reggie, as with most people who try to do the right thing, to do something positive, there is always a test of their faith, at least for most people. So, what has been the biggest test of your faith on your journey?
Well, like I said, I was incarcerated in prison, and I was guilty at 19 years old. I ended up robbing a bank, and I ended up getting illegally sentenced to. Well, what happened was when I robbed the bank, I got sentenced in federal prison, and I got sentenced in state prison, and it was never supposed to happen. They gave me 18 and a half years for my first charge, and they illegally sentenced me. What they said was I robbed the people personal property. So the lady that's working her wallet, her purse, the man's wallet outside the bank a couple of feet away, and then I ran into the prison. Which I always say a crackhead wouldn't do that because somebody's gonna see me in broad daylight robbing these people before I run inside the bank. And then I went to trial, and my judge coerced my jury. He influenced the jury to see that I was guilty. No, he told that I had a hung jury because I had a public defender. He was making it look like maybe my father did it because at the same time that I was going down, my father, who was corporate American, who was living this great life, he was selling drugs for Cubans and Colombians, his best friend. So yes, I do have a life story that's like a movie, and we are talking to film producers. But at the same time I was going down, he was going down, and my judge coerced the jury. They legally sentenced me. I had grew up being bullied, so gangs, streets. My mother was on drugs. It was so much in my mind. And I said, God, this is after I start trusting you. I started praying like my grandmother said. And I ended up getting legally sentenced with 18 and a half years in my first time. So then I was let out of prison after 4.5 years. I went to trial. After 4.5 years, I went back and filed an appeal. And they granted me a lower sentence on my state case. So what happened was I went to court. A guy that's what we call a prison lawyer. He has a life sentence or 30 years. They studied the law. He started filing my case. I ended up winning like the 4 years later because what happened was the state prison was supposed to be running that time concurrent with the federal prison, meaning that while I'm doing federal time, the state time is going at the same time. I was never supposed to touch state prison. It's the worst. It's way worse than federal prison because it's a bank robbery. So I should have been in federal prison, which people call club fed compared to federal state prison. But they sent me to the worst prison. So we filed the appeal. 4 years later, I get in. I'm in the county jail, and I get back in the courts, and the judge say, well, somehow the federal prison didn't agree, but what we're going to do is overturn your 9 years for the gun, for the state case, and just charge you 3 years, drop it down for a gun charge because the gun charge carries 3 years. So, but like I said, I had 4 years, so my new sentence is just 3 years. I could have went straight home out the prison. The judge said, but we can't let you go because the federal prison has a hold on you. They have a detainer. They're coming to pick you up. So I go back in the cell, but I'm happy now because I've seen God move. I've seen something happen. Like they just reduced my sentence. So let's say on a Monday, they take you to state prison. On Tuesday, they take you federal prison. They call me to pack up to go to another state prison. And I'm like, why are they calling me to go to state prison? I just got my case overturned. I should be going to federal prison. There's a saying, while you're trying to figure it out, God has already worked it out.
Hey.
So they sent me out. Yeah, they sent me to state prison. It was like a camp. It wasn't hard like I was. I'm writing my lawyer. I'm writing the judge. I'm even writing the prosecutor against me. Why I'm in federal prison? Because in my mind, how am I going to beat the federal prison and state prison? I never got a reply. So after 3 times, which is my number, whatever I don't push, after 3 times, I got no reply. 4 months go by, and I'm sitting in this classroom where it's called, they teach you how to open a bank account when you get out of prison. And the lady comes from R&D. R&D is where they receive you in, they deliver you out, R&D. She comes and said, Mr. Foreman, we need you down at R&D. As I'm walking to the door, it was this young Haitian kid I used to mentor. None of the older guys would deal with him. He was wild. But that's why I tell the people, the youth need discipline, but they need love. So I was like his big brother. So when I was walking to the door, the young Haitian kid was like, hey, boy, today is your day. Things happen when it rains. It's your day. and it was raining. I said, what is that? Some voodoo or something? What that mean? Things happen when it rains. So I was like, all right. So I go down and I go in and the lady's typing on the computer. She said, Mr. Foreman, you have an immediate release. I'm like, okay, I know I got to get out of here because I'm supposed to be in federal prison. So, but 4 months ago, there was a hold on my name. So I said, my stomach was like bubbling, anxious, like, is there a hold on me in the computer? She said, no. I said, there's no detainer on my name in the computer. She said, no. I said, I'm going to shut up and ride this out. Let's see what happened. So they take me to change clothes. They give me $100 when you get out of state prison. I got in the front seat with the police lady, not the back seat. I'm sitting in the front seat. I said, hold up, this is becoming real. She take me to the Greyhound bus station and say, Greyhound bus station, say, Mr. Foreman, have a nice life. We don't want to see you again. As the Greyhound drove off, I'm jumping, oh my God, I just beat the feds. Oh my God. So I was free after 4 years. And I remember I had 18 and a half years, but I was free. Now I get out of Miami, Florida. I see they live in the same ways. My dad was gone from drugs. My friends were like my dad said, they were either dead, strung out, or in prison like me, or had a bunch of kids. See, at the age of 16, my aunt in St. Louis, Missouri, when I say they Kojic super church, skirt down their own ankles, no makeup Holy Ghost church, they had offered me to move with them. And I said, no, I ain't gonna be able to play my rap music. I ain't gonna be able to date no girls. I'm not coming up there. And now I'm 25 years old. That's why I tell people, if you've been on drugs, if you've been in prison, if you need to escape from a relationship that you keep going back to, what you need is accountability. You need someone to hold you accountable. So I said, I need to go to St. Louis because if I stay in Miami like this, I'm gonna end up back in prison. I called my aunt. I moved to St. Louis. Now I was dating the pastor's daughter. I was working at temp service, labor ready, where you dig ditches for $6, walk dogs, whatever. I wasn't thinking about crime. I was about to be the deacon in the church. My girlfriend, the pastor's daughter, started having dreams that I went back to prison. I'm like, why are you having dreams? I went back to prison. I ain't even thinking about crime. She had 4 dreams. I was out 30 months, 3 years, 4 days after Valentine's Day, 2004. I never forget. I'm laying on the bed, 6 a.m., laying on the bed, 1 foot on, 1 sock off, and I heard a heavy knock. And if you ever heard a U.S. Marshal serve a warrant, it'll wake you up out of coma. I go downstairs and the door opened and the police said, Mr. Foreman, we have a warrant for your arrest. They took me to the police car, handcuffed me, turned around and looked at me and said, you were let out of prison erroneously by mistake. So I was not mad at the prison. I wasn't mad at the police. I was mad at God. I changed my life. I relocated. I'm about to be the deacon in the church and you telling me I'm going back to prison? And what we say, we rather have judge and jury on the streets. We rather shoot it out than to go back in there. So I'm trying to figure out, is God an Indian giver? Why did I do all of this and I got to go back in there? So I'm going to speed it up. I go back in there. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed in tears, head down, suicidal. And this older guy came to me, another guy. He was anointed in the word. He had a life sentence. And he started speaking life into me. And I had a chance to say, well, I'm going to say it better for TV, but I mean, for this interview, Negro, I don't want to hear nothing else about God. I could have told him that, but my head was down in tears, suicide, and I said, whatever you say. He began to speak life in me. So what I did was occupy myself. I don't have them with me right now, but I have like 30 to 40 some certificates where I was bettering myself. I was voted prisoner of the month, most likely to succeed when I get out of prison. I was the anger management. And I tell people, you're waiting on God to do something, but what are you showing him that you're preparing for what you're asking for? So long story short, he filed the appeal for me. I ended up winning the appeal. So they gave me my time because what they wanted me was to do the whole 9.5 years. They said the federal prison didn't want to take the state town, so I had to fight. So I won the appeal. I ended up doing 4.5 years, 3 years on the street, and 4 years. I ended up doing 8.5 years. So right there was the hardest thing I went through, besides me losing my daughter, which I'll cut in and let you speak before I tell that part.
Okay. Oh,
I know it's a lot.
Yes, you talk about a test. That was a big old test, all right. But you know what? I'm sure you have your testimony out of that test. And I heard you mention something about suicide. So you had suicide thoughts before. Tell us about that situation.
The thing about suicide, what I went through was sometimes I wanted to express this. Sometimes suicide can be a generational curse. It could be seen around you. Because my mother used to try to take her life when I was younger. And I remember seeing it. That's why they say hurt people hurt other people. She was going through depression. I've seen her drink alcohol until she was passing out and try to sit in the car in the garage with fumes coming in to kill herself. So, and I think that as I went back over my life and the roots, that was a part of me because there was times, one of the biggest times I was sitting on my bed before I went to prison. And this is when, and I have to tell this because a lot of people got the title Christian, but they don't, that's Christians going home, cutting themselves, drinking themselves under the bed. Because you say you become a Christian don't mean you delivered and you have a real relationship with God. And I had to find that out. So I remember sitting on the edge of the bed. I was a deacon in the church. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed and I had took culinary arts when I came out of prison. And there's a big knife there. It's a double-sided knife. It's funny. It's like the Bible said, two-edged sword. So it's a double-sided knife you cut up fruit and vegetables and everything with. And what had happened was, and this is what usually happened with depression, everything from my aunt, what I was going through the same time in prison. My aunt, I was outside, and what happened is life wasn't making it as fast as I wanted to. I came out of prison again. When you start serving God, you think it's just going to change. I was a businessman. Everything was still hard because God was trying to develop me. He knew I couldn't handle the amount of success he was sending me to, but I couldn't see that. So I was like, God, I'd rather go on the glory with you. I convinced myself that I was going home faster in the suicide. You know, I was like, Lord, I'm ready to come on home. I'm about to take my life. So I'm sitting there with the knife about to stab myself in the chest, a deacon in the church in my late 20s. And my cell phone was sitting beside me. When I say my cell phone began to ring so loud, it was like, you know how when they say there's a dog whistle, you blow and the dog can hear it, but you can't. The cell phone, like it was talking to me. And I just put the knife down, picked the cell phone up. It was my brother in Christ. He said, boy, something told me to call you right now. And I started talking. I said, man, I just started telling them what I was going through. I'm tired of being here. I'm tired of arguing with people. And what you do is you go back to, I went through this in my life. My mother was on drugs. I let everything swell in my mind and not fight it, not block it. And so next thing you know is him, ex-gang members, ex-pimps, brothers in Christ in the middle had me in a circle praying for me. So that's why I always know that when suicide and depression come is you're sitting there allowing all the pain to come in from everywhere and you're not seeing a way out. And I had to remind myself, well, through prayer, because I was done, that have been twice in my life that I was at the edge of taking my life. And I found out, and the traces of it is not understanding who God is and what he's working, because many times we're mad at God because he hasn't done it the way we want to and in his time and your time frame.
Wow. So how did you keep going in spite of all these roadblocks and setbacks that you've encountered?
The main thing I just said, you have to renew your mind. Romans 12:2 in the Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I have this thing in my book, Live Determined, Don't Let Your Struggles Bully Your Dreams, my first book, that you have to keep your spiritual and your mental tank full. How do you do that? When you get in a car and you're driving to go out of town, one of the first things you do, well, what you must do is you got to fill the car up. And I talk to this when I'm speaking to people. So if we're going on a journey, we can't do this on E. How I keep my mental tank full is I watch success stories. This is one of the biggest things for me. I always study because I found that from Oprah to Tyler Perry to Jim Carrey, these people bleed the same blood, and some was homeless. You know, Tyler Perry's story, Oprah was told she was too fat, black, and ugly for TV. Bishop T.D. Jakes was poverty for 10 years. He had like 40 to 50 people in his church. And so I kept reminding myself that God is not looking down on me. So I keep my mental tank full, knowing that if these people can make it, I can make it. That's how I do in business. My spiritual tank, as I'm reading Spiritual Foundation and praying, and one thing I learned, when you're going through a situation, don't wait 3-4 days to pray. You need to pray immediately, because after that, your prayers feel like it's bouncing off the wall. So how I do it is I keep renewing my mind. I can't watch, how do you say it, fruitless TV shows all day long. I ain't super bishop nobody. I watch movies, I watch television shows, but I have to outweigh it with my business stuff and my spiritual stuff. So as long as I keep my mind renewed, I know that there's an answer. I stay close to God. And I've been through some stuff. Like I said, a loss of a child. I've been through a lot of things serving God. But as long as I keep my mind renewed, I stay close to God, and I know I have a purpose.
Amen to that. And, you know, let me just shout out all the folks who are watching live. I'm just going to ask them to show you some love right now. Just hit the love button. Thank you, Angel, Beverly, everyone who was tuned in. This is powerful. This is really powerful. So you are an author and speaker and at-risk advocate, as I read earlier. So first, how do you navigate all those aspects of your business? And second, if you could describe to us what is the at-risk advocate is.
Well, I'm an at-risk specialist, and I say that because I had a mentor let me know that with mental health going on, I've studied and learned how to help people. What I do is I help people navigate through their pain and help it turn into purpose. I've studied it. I went to class. I prayed. I fasted because I've been through so much, and I always found out that God has a reason for what you're going through. The biggest thing is finding out as hard as what God allows. Why did God allow that? Not God didn't make your child die. God didn't make your parent die, but he may have allowed it for whatever his greater reason is. So I've navigated through that and counseling to help people turn their pain into purpose. So everything from my business, from my books, from my fashion line, is all faith-based. I have a toy line I'm gonna show you. Reggie the Lion speaks positive affirmation to kids. So I navigate through all that because it's all under one umbrella. I don't have ain't nothing wrong with this, but for me, I don't have a beauty supply and a car wash over here. Everything that I have is all up under one umbrella, and it deals with empowering people spiritually, mentally, and there's some dope gear. This is my polo shirt. So all that is about me taking everything that I've created has happened after a pain, after a trial, after I lost something. I've always created another product. So that's what my business is incorporated is from my fashion author, working on my movie script. My life story is going to be about helping people be empowered. And as at-risk specialist, like I said, my gift is helping people see the purpose in their pain.
Okay, awesome. So, like you just mentioned, so tell us about the adventure of a lion. What is it called? The Adventure of Reggie the Lion. Can you share with us a little about that?
Reggie. So this is the prototype. So Reggie Lion is the prototype. He's a positive affirmation dog, which he speaks positive affirmations. I don't know if we can hear it now. Can you hear that?
I can hear
you probably can't hear because I got the headphones on. But what he does is he speaks positive affirmations, and this is a prototype. This is what I was able to create on my budget. But my purpose of him is being big as a Mickey Mouse, the faith-based Mickey Mouse. But how he came about was me and my wife, I'm divorced now, but me and my wife, when we were trying to have children, and she was having a problem because she had fibroids, she has growths in her, and we lost it. The first time it was a false alarm. She was pregnant with all the symptoms, but they said there was no fetus in there. And I mean, she was devastated with God, and her faith was not as strong as mine. Like it was like going sick, going to the hospital, and then they said no fetus in there, like she was really pregnant. So she gave up for 2 years. We came back 2 years later. She got her faith back and said, she came to me and was like, man, I think she was watching Joel Osteen. She was like, I want to try again. I want to have children. And I was like, whoa. Then she just said, I don't want to have one child. You're 40 years old. My first child was born at 40, my only child. You 40 years old and I'm 36. I want to have 2 of them. So I'm looking at her like, in my mind, I'm like, are you crazy? We going back and forth arguing, barely getting on. I ain't ready to have no twins. I'm trying to build a business. But I didn't say that to her. I had to believe with her. So we start what we do to make children. Time goes by. She gets the home pregnancy. She's pregnant again. So we've been through this before. So she went to the doctor while I was out on my side job. And she said, baby, the doctor heard a heartbeat this time because the first time there was no heartbeat. And I said, whoa, okay. Then she said, baby, the doctor heard 2 heartbeats. I almost drove off the side of the road. I said, no, God didn't bless this girl with no twins. I could not, when I say I could not believe it. So now I'm like, we got twins. And I start thinking, maybe these children are going to bring our marriage closer. So I'm rolling with it in faith. Everything's going cool. 15 weeks inside the pregnancy, I was doing my traveling around doing speaking events with y'all know Leroy McKenzie. He was a part of, a lot of people was with me. And we were coming from Baltimore. We was at home 3 days after one of my biggest events. I'm downstairs watching TV and I hear a scream upstairs. I go upstairs and in 15 weeks of pregnancy, she's standing over a puddle of water. And I'm like, oh man, I know what this is mean, what I've heard before, but I went into big faith Christian. I said, there's no way that God is going to let anything happen to my children. People were inboxing us, crying, saying y'all testimony, how y'all didn't have a child. Now you got twins, God answered you. And then I forgot to say this. It was our first time having children, and you don't have no children. You want the best of both worlds. We went and checked the sexes, and he gave us what we wanted. We had a boy and a girl. So everything was lining up. So now she's standing over a puddle of water 15 weeks. I said, there's no way that God is going to let me down like this. This is why I say to people, it hurts to accept what God allows. So she said, well, maybe I peed on myself because I got fibroids in me and my water burst. And I peed on myself. She didn't say water burst because we didn't want to believe that. And I said, okay, maybe that's what it was. She goes to take a shower. I go back downstairs. An hour later, I hear a worse screech. I come upstairs. She's sitting on the edge of the steps. She said, look. I looked down and 2 little feet was hanging out of her vagina. And I said, oh my God. And she looked at me. She said, I've never seen you this scared or fear in your eyes, because she didn't want to look. We rushed to the hospital. And the doctor said, yes, you have lost. I can tell by the sex. It was a little girl. You lost your baby girl. So my wife didn't want to hear nothing about God. She was devastated. I didn't have time to mourn. I had to be strong for her. I didn't have time to be sad. I just pushed it to the back of my mind. I said, listen, you have to stay strong. I know you don't want to talk about God, but you still have a little boy in there, because we had twins. It was a boy and a girl. So she's holding her strength up. She's going to get the surgery on her cervix so she can hold, because he would slip out also, because it was the growth was pushing the babies out. Ooh, so she was having surgery. So 27 weeks into that, I'm laying in the bed on the side of her of the hospital bed. And all I heard was a lot of shuffling and things going around in the room. It was like he can't breathe. I think the umbilical cord was around his neck or something. And it was like, he got to come now. He got to come now. I jump up like, oh my God, at 27 weeks? We go in there, and yes, she had to have a C-section. He came out the smallest little baby, 2 pounds and 1 ounce. He was a preemie. But when I say he came out screaming, so I felt hope, because he didn't have to be revived or nothing. He came out crying at 2 pounds and 1 ounce. I was like, okay, God. So they stitched her up. He had to stay in the hospital 75 days. She stayed in 45 days. She was back believing in God. And I said, okay, it's going to be all right. Even though my son was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, he's the most handsome. If you see him on Facebook, happy, smiling, big. That's a whole nother story, how God blessing us through that. But after I went home, I said, it's now, God, it's time for me and you to talk. I said, God, how is this serving you good? How is this a good purpose for all I've done for you to take one of my children? I don't understand this. And I was frustrated. I couldn't doubt or not believe in God, because I've seen him done too much. So what came to my mind was MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. If you heard of this woman, she lost her daughter at 13 years old to a drunk driver. Her story came to me because she turned her situation into an organization. So I was like, okay. I mean, when I say God started showing me visions, see, Reggie the Lion used to be a mascot on my shirt like Ralph Polo Bear. I was making it for the children. I saw clear as day taking this picture off my shirt and making them into a doll. And I was like, usually people are like, well, how am I going to do that? That's impossible. But because I already had started a fashion line, been an author, and I'm a big faith, I'm like, God, let's do it. And so he was like, put the affirmations in the doll, because I had a businesswoman come to me, Joan. She was strong in the word, and she was in business. She said, for you losing one child, you're going to help millions of children. I was like, wow. Another guy came to me. He was in the word. He said, I see you helping children believe before they can doubt, because they will be hearing the affirmation from 2 to 5. You know, our children are hearing everything negative stuff around the house. So the doll, he says, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. This is what he does. And so now I had Reggie the Lion. There's a clothing line. It's an app I'm creating. I have Regina the Lion. I'm creating Reggie the Lion as big as Mickey Mouse, a faith-based product. So right now, what I have out is the book. This is right here, Reggie the Lion, the book. It's a coloring book that I created for me and my son, which we're getting great reviews from. And it's so powerful because my son is Jeremiah. So this legacy gets passed on because it's the Adventures of Reggie the Lion and Jeremiah. Now, Reggie the Lion, we are still collecting funding, because it costs a lot of money to create these dolls. It was almost $200 and some. And I had to add the voice box in myself. So we've sat down with investors, Invent Health. They did the George Foreman Grill. A lot of people want to either try to think I'm dumb and take the company. Some people just don't fit. But when I say that Reggie the Lion, every church we've been to, all the traveling, people are like, where's the doll? Where's the doll? But sometimes you just got to trust God's time, and he's building a team for me. But you're talking about an African-American ex-offender creating a toy line. We're not known for that. If you Google it, most of what we're known for is little dolls and and the Super Soaker, the black man that created the Super Soaker that made millions of dollars. So this is a big thing. Can it bring back my daughter? No. But what I tell people is, you've been through a pain, you've been through a abuse, you've been through something. Now what do you do with it? And that's how Reggie the Lion got birthed.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned that you were married before and you had a divorce. So if and how did that affect your ministry and your business?
Well, this is one of the biggest things because it's very powerful. People get married for the time that you in, how you feeling. We don't marry for our future. That's why it's called a purpose mate. And the calling on my life and what God called me to do and what I've been through, I got married too fast. I was 30 something years old. I was ready to be married. I was tired of waiting. And God had warned me. I had people coming up to me prophetically like, Reggie, I don't think that's the one for you. It's not time. But God allowed his permissive will. So how it helped me go through that because you got to understand this one was corporate America, attractive, all that, but she didn't believe in the vision that I had. We were not lined up. She was like, "You doing all these speaking events? Sometimes they didn't pay me. I was, you got to do free things. I'm selling stuff from the table, but it ain't enough." And so I'm fighting in my family while God is trying to make me a multimillionaire. Yes, I have many streams of income, but it don't happen overnight because if it did, you wouldn't be able to handle it. But I was married to someone that didn't have the patience and the faith. And so it was a struggle. It wasn't a struggle far as me and her separating because I was like, I did wrong. But now you done made a child. And then it was a lot of people, a lot of bad talking because I left right after my son was born. He's diagnosed with well, my ex-wife left me. She said she has to go. So it wasn't me. But it's a lot of things that you go through that had to build me up. Now, what I understood was I definitely know how to take time and trust God more. But a divorce is not easy. It was a blessing that it was a little less painless for me because we didn't have a lot of assets and things to separate. But my son, we're co-parenting now. We're pretty good. My son is healthy. But of course, I'd rather be in the same house with my son and with my, his mother. But I know that she would never, she was not meant for me for where I'm going. And that one was a little different. I couldn't get mad at God because that was my fault. I should have listened. But right now, I'm doing better. And I'm like, God, send that old godly woman to me. I'm going to listen this time.
Wow. So let me ask you, because we're nearing the end of the broadcast. So if there's that one person watching, whether it's now or the replay later on, the watch party, I should say, that they may be going through something, through a rough time. It could be due to this COVID-19 thing or just a rough time period. From someone who has endured so much and, is still here to give the testimony, what would you say to that person?
One thing I had to learn from a young guy is do not panic. When something happens, we immediately go into panic and worry. Do not panic. I give this illustration when I travel and speak. Imagine a couple of feet from you, behind a door, is everything you want, whether it's a spouse, $1 million, a new house, whatever you're wanting is behind this door. But right in front of this door is a Rottweiler. I mean, he's growling, big dog mean. And then it could be your child needs this healing, this medicine. But you said, look, I got to get what's behind this door. I'm going to fight this dog. And as you walk to the dog, you look, he don't have no teeth. He's bluffing. He can't bite you. And so a lot of times our problems are like that. So what I tell people is don't panic. God is still real. Weather the storm. Don't, because when you panic, you go to calling people, you go to doing stuff too fast. As soon as the boat is going to sink, when you panic, you could be on your sick bed. When you start stressing and worrying, you heighten the disease or you heighten the sickness. So my biggest thing is tell people don't panic. And remember, God never lies. He has a purpose for you. But if you understand that all these things work together, then you'll be able to weather the storm.
All right. Hey, Debbie, thank you for tuning in. Wow. So, Reggie, for those who may want to connect with you after this broadcast, how can they find you, follow you, get in touch with you?
Well, my website is my name is www.reginaldforeman.com. Instagram is Reginald_Foreman. That's Reginald Foreman, Reginald_Foreman. My Facebook page is Reginald Foreman God Made. Everything is my name, Reginald Foreman God Made. And then we have, Reginald_ the Lion for Reggie Lion. But my website is reginaldforeman.com.
Okay, cool. And so if anyone who's watching now or the watch party that may have any question for you, I will definitely make sure you get those questions so that you can answer them, because this has been empowering. I mean,
I have a life coach class and everything. People take my class. I help them go through from, I want to plug this because a lot of life coach class, I am a businessman, but if you don't get healed from the abuse, the anger, whatever you've been through, you'll take that into your business. You'll take that into your ministry. I was one that didn't trust people because so many people lied to me and said they had my back. So when I was doing business with people and they would not call back or do what they said, I would immediately want to cut them off because I want to be hurt. And God showed me you took your pain into your blessing. I'm going to say that again. Don't take your pain into your blessing. So I try to help people heal what they're going through before they try to advance, because you'll ruin your business if you don't get healed. So I just want to plug that. I do have a life coach class.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. So definitely thank you so much for being my guest on Influential
Awesome.
Thursday. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for your transparency, because somebody need to hear this, you know, because a lot of times people go through stuff and they're just, whether it's be they're afraid or ashamed of their story. And then your story, it may not have been, I believe that everyone go through these things for a reason. And so whatever your story is, it may not be just for you. You may be the person who went through the situation, but you as one person went through the situation to help heal hundreds, thousands, you know. So
Right.
again, I thank you for sharing your transparency and sharing your story with us on Influential Thursday. So next week, viewers, join me again next week for another broadcast with my featured guest next week is Mr. Derek Barnes. And I look forward to you guys tuning in. As always, thank you for your support, and please share this broadcast with your network. There may be someone who may really need to hear this message. And if you could go on over to YouTube and like my YouTube channel, where I'm going to be housing all these amazing broadcasts, you just look up Influential Thursday. And I invite you to stay tuned, follow my page. I'm going to have a virtual pre-Mother's Day celebration. That's going to be awesome. So the flyer will be coming soon, and thank you for your support as always. But I have been your host, Jamaican Joan. But until next time, you take care and make this $1 million day. Jamaican Joan and Reginald Foreman out. Good night.